Hey there, this is the One Boom, and today we're going to be talking about Flinch in COD WW2 and the pro players that are currently against the idea of it being in the game. Yes, it's true, Flinch is apparently ruining Call of Duty World War II, Flinch has no place in Call of Duty, and it makes gunfights random and inconsistent. This opinion is shared by most of the pro community, if not all of it, and this idea has a lot of big people behind it, such as Scumper, Nadeshot, and JCap. Now, I'm quite aware this video is going to be met with a lot of varying opinions, and I just hope you guys can keep it civil in the comment section below. Personally attacking me or any of my subscribers or any kind person in the comment section will get you nowhere here, but I'm not your mom. Do whatever you want. Just know that if you want to be taken seriously, you gotta talk about this with some sort of finesse and respect, or maybe make a video in response to this that other people can watch. I probably won't watch it, but whatever. So let's first talk about some of my gripes with the pro community. I'm not going to say this is a rant or that it isn't a rant, but it's definitely opinionated, it's definitely a little bit inflammatory, and I really hope no one takes offense to this and they just see it as somebody else's perspective. I'm not trying to tear anyone down here, this is just what I've been noticing. Now, I respect that a lot of the Call of Duty pro players are much better than me, they have more skill than me, they're more successful than me, their face is on the news and mine's not. I totally respect, appreciate that, and even look up to it in a certain extent. But I have to say, a lot of them are ending up acting like the hype beasts of the Call of Duty community, acting like super ballers, acting like they're above everyone else and that their opinions matters more. And I know as soon as you're young, you're talented at something, you make money doing it, you have a nice car, you live in a nice house because of it, that goes to your head, it would go to mine too, but since it hasn't, I get to critique it. That's America. Let's lay this out frankly and hopefully unoffensively. They live a luxurious life. They play COD under different rule set, circumstances, and for different reasons than most other people. And what's most frustrating to me, and the reason I don't really take them seriously, is they started acting like the public match scene, or the general casual scene, was secondary to the pro scene. I'm sorry, but Activision wants to please the majority before the minority, even if the minority is talented and makes them a lot of money. And their fan bases. Now, a small channel should not really start critiquing fan bases, because you'll look petty doing it. I fully accept that I will look petty while doing this. Bring it on, I guess. But their fan base seems to be built off of that famous idea that being good at whatever thing equals being more insightful, clever, smart, and more prone to having proper feedback about said thing. The more successful you are, the more well-known your name is, the more water you will hold, and that makes sense, but subscribers do not equal intelligence, KD does not equal insight, and just like somebody being bad at a video game will skew with their perception, so will being really good at it. We all live in our bubbles to an extent, but it's important for professional COD players to realize that they are the minority. The unfortunate reality is that they need to fully realize the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Even if the few is as talented and as influential as them, developers still need to strike a balance. Just because you play the game competitively for money doesn't mean the decisions you want Sledgehammer Games to make should be implemented, because it will affect way more than just you. This isn't Counter-Strike, this isn't Rainbow Six Siege, this is Call of Duty, where most of the player base isn't even on YouTube, Twitter, or Reddit. They just play for fun, and they don't really give a shit about you or know who you are. And as much as their feedback doesn't really matter because they don't give it, the casuals I mean, Sledgehammer still has to think about them when making changes to the game, and that doesn't mean that pro players shouldn't request things, it just means that they shouldn't expect things. The pro scene comes with their own set of demands, not unlike the sniping community in Call of Duty, minus the death threats. They have their own brand of smug entitlement that doesn't seem professional at all. This our way or the highway, no middle ground attitude, we're baller, we're better, our input should matter more. That attitude sucks, even if you were factually right every time. That attitude sucks, and it has to be addressed, even by a little poor faggot like me. And that right there is called attacking someone and making yourself look like the victim. There you go. That one's on me. So now let's talk about Flinch. Now, one of the things I keep hearing is that Flinch in Call of Duty is random as hell and causes amazing amounts of inconsistency. Well, the first thing we have to talk about then is that Flinch is not random. It happens every time you get shot in every Call of Duty since the beginning of the franchise, even with perks like focus or toughness, you have always flinched in Call of Duty when getting hit, to various degrees and varying by different weapons and damage outputs. How is that random? I saw some people describing it as RNG bullshit. I'm sorry, you getting hit by different caliber weapons, creating varying levels of flinch every time you're hit is not random. Just because your sight kicks up when you get hit doesn't mean it's random. The word random gets thrown around too much and I've fucking had it. But like I've said, it's been in every Call of Duty. You think they would have the ability to expect it, play around it, use it against their enemies? But no, it's holding them back, it's holding back skill, it's inconsistent and random, and even in this tweet here, this guy said, why even try? Like, why even try? I mean, wow. I guess the pro players should throw away all their rewards and trophies from previous Call of Duty tournaments and Call of Duty games because they were playing games with random gunfights that held back their skill. They were RNG gunfights, guys. Ghosts, Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3 for sure, Infinite Warfare, Modern Warfare Remastered, all of these games had flinch. So all of the gunfights were random and inconsistent. No skill required. Those games had something that doesn't even belong in Call of Duty according to these people. So I guess, in a sense, those rewards, those trophies don't mean anything anymore. Or they at least mean a hell of a lot less. You were playing games with RNG gunfights. Get out of here, boy. Now, being selfish is something I also don't like about these pro players when they request things. Like, I wonder if they've even thought, how would no flinch affect PC players or pub players? They probably don't care. I've said this before about PC Call of Duty, the weapons are so easy to use and are so intuitive. As soon as you have the full control of a mouse, weapons are used outside of their effective ranges because they don't have the limitations of aim assist or analog sticks. So if you had this hyper easy gunplay with keyboard and mouse, and then you just removed flinch, you'd be effectively doubling the effectiveness of a good player and cutting in half the effectiveness of a newbie player. Am I for or against that? The jury's still out. I lean more towards the majority of players. I lean more towards the fact that flinch is in every game and it can be used to balance gunplay. But at the same time, do you think these pro players even considered that? Or would PC still have to have flinch so they'd be effectively playing Call of Duty but with an entirely different style of gunplay? It just seems a little bit weird. Now, removing flinch is what's on the table here. And I would say it'd make the game more consistent, but I think it would also create an unforgiving system that punishes players even when they land first shot or get the drop on you. Let's say there's a match of average to slightly above average players, and a pub stomper joins the opposite team to them. If a pub stomper joined that match and was killing these players repeatedly, and let's say someone gets on the person's flank or something, and they start shooting. Now this player that they're shooting at is exceptional at the game. They don't play it after work. They don't play it occasionally. They don't play it with just their friend. They grind this game obsessively. They're not going to be able to get knocked off target. They're not going to be kicked off target. So they're just going to turn on you and melt you because they're probably also using the highest DPS gun in the game, which I would guarantee you would become the meta in COD World War II if there was no flinch. You would just want the fastest DPS. That's why in the Modern Warfare series with Modern Warfare 2 and 3, and then also Call of Duty Ghosts and Infinite Warfare, because those games had such low flinch, the guns that ruled the roost weren't really the heavy-hitting, slow-firing guns, and it limited people down to the fastest firing guns. Now this is great for pro players because they'll use 3 or 4 guns, maybe that many. They're not really interested in variety when it comes to competing, and I understand that, but they also have to take into account that there's other people out there that aren't just them. A DPS meta would make a lot of guns completely useless, and that's why you have to have a little bit of flinch. If they hit you with a higher caliber weapon, you flinch a little bit more, and that can help to make up for the lower fire rate. I'm not stating that these are reasons to not remove flinch, I'm giving you more things to think about. Let's move on. I see a lot of players saying that flinch gives people easy headshots that take no skill. Although headshots haven't been viable in the past several COD games, and I never see pro players using high caliber. Also, wouldn't it be easier to get a headshot on the person shooting you if you had 0 flinch? Like, so their problem is that shooting somebody causes them to flinch, their sight pops up, and then they can hit the person in the head. Now, headshot multipliers are extremely low in the latest Call of Duty games. Headshots basically mean shit all at most ranges, in most engagements, with most guns, and I really mean most, capital M. But if there was no flinch, That person, if they're facing you, still has an equal chance of killing you. I don't really get it. You just made their gunfight more consistent and yours more difficult. You're no longer rewarded for getting the drop on somebody and being the first one to pull the trigger. Which, with all the variables of internet connections, ISPs, routers, modems, people playing on Wi-Fi, online with pubs, when playing online with GBs, there's some weird things with people that land the first shot when maybe they shouldn't have because of weird connection things. But on LAN, you wouldn't really be as rewarded for your reaction time or being set up anymore. I'm not saying this is a reason not to do it, I'm just giving more things to think about. But let's exaggerate the point just to make a different one, okay? You hear me? I'm going to exaggerate the point to make a different one. Follow along here. Flinch can cause inconsistent gunfights, okay? Just like the following will create inconsistent gunfights. The weapon you're using, the weapon the enemy's using, the attachments used by you and the attachments used by your enemy, the perks used by you and your enemy, body damage multipliers, connection, aim assist range, scuff controllers, people with better monitors and headsets, and most of all, perks that change how gunfights work. That's right, if you really wanted to get rid of inconsistency as a pro player, you should have advocated for Sledgehammer to remove the flinch reduction from primed. Flinch is bad enough, right? But not knowing who's gonna flinch more than the guy next to them is also an inconsistency. Also, for some reason, you had to have a class without the basic training perk primed. That class you're using now has more flinch, creating more inconsistency. There shouldn't be, in my opinion, any perks that affect the way your gunplay works that directly. Flinch should be a global thing set for everyone. Nothing should reduce it. Now let's talk about something else here. Snipers without flinch. Now, yeah, they could have no flinch on every gun but snipers, but let's just say flinch was removed. Let's entertain that idea. Imagine snipers in Call of Duty with no flinch. The whole point of being a Call of Duty sniper is that you can take someone out immediately if you pull the trigger faster than they do. But at any sort of mid to long range, the sniper doesn't have to pull the trigger before you. The sniper just has to keep the sight on you, which should be pretty easy seeing how there's no flinch. All of this is to say, pro players act like they own the franchise, and in a way they do more than the average player. They have a lot more weight in it, and they're a lot more passionate about it. That doesn't mean what they say is gospel and fact. Just because Scumpy's better than me doesn't mean he's right and I'm wrong. Just because he plays more COD than me doesn't mean he's right and I'm wrong. That's unfortunately not how right and wrong works. And unfortunately, this isn't really a right and wrong situation. Look, Black Ops 3 had a lot of flinch and no way to reduce it. Black Ops 2 and Call of Duty Ghosts, even with focus and toughness perks equipped, you would still shake and flinch when getting shot. It didn't remove flinch, it reduced it. Call of Duty has always had flinch. And if you stay till this point in the video, you will hear me say this. I think flinch in COD WW2 needs to be reduced. And in fact, it was just recently reduced, and some pro players and pub stompers and avid COD fans have appreciated the new changes. Too much flinch creates a first shot meta, where it just matters who lands the first shot and then just destroys the other person. Similar to games that slow you down or keep you from running when you get shot. Which Call of Duty doesn't do, by the way. Some gunfights are not for you and you should learn to back up, prone, sit down, and wait, but most COD players don't do that. They just try to see the gunfight through the end, and that usually ends up in a death for someone that they didn't expect. And it's usually not because their gun was flinching, they weren't playing correctly. It's always strange when pro players move the goalpost every year. There's always a new issue. There's always something. And if they can't prove that the issue's there, they'll start rumors about it that spread like wildfire because their fan bases take everything they say as gospel. That's how the rumors about skill-based matchmaking really got started, was a lot of pro players and streamers. I think these players are so used to being good, so used to being better than everyone, that they sometimes forget that they're playing a game that anybody can pick up and kill you in. And when they start getting killed multiple times, whether in public matches or in competitive matches, they don't realize they're playing a very intuitive battle of attrition style game. So when they start to get their ass kicked, and I'm assuming a lot of them are in COD WW2, at least more than it was in IW, MWR, and the previous COD games, because COD WW2 does play pretty differently. And they're going to run to the developers, and they're going to complain, and they're going to suggest massive changes. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't requested the removal of certain maps they don't see as competitively viable. Like, honestly, if Scump complained about, let's say, Gustav Cannon in COD WW2, and he complained and complained and complained, and then they just ended up removing Gustav Cannon entirely, I feel like him and other players like him wouldn't care if any pub players enjoyed playing on it. He didn't want to touch it. But if they really want a consistent experience in Call of Duty, they should only play it on LAN or against bots. They should have a rule set where everyone has to use the same gun. So like, 4v4 matches where everybody uses the BAR with the exact same class setup. Less inconsistency. And then if there was no aim assist or body damage multipliers, you wouldn't have to worry about getting an arm or a leg shot with your hip fire spread or anything like that. And you wouldn't have to worry about aim assist ranges, because sometimes you do have aim assist and sometimes you don't. That's an inconsistency and it's not okay. So we could fix all of these things, and there is one thing here at the end of the video I'm going to tuck away. Why haven't they suggested that no flinch becomes a part of the competitive rule set, so when they go to set up a competitive match, there will be no flinch, and that doesn't have to affect everyone else? I haven't seen any of them ask for that or request that feature. They really don't care if other people want there to be a little bit of flinch in the game. They want there to be a little bit of an equalizer. They don't care if it affects PC players or people that don't like fighting snipers. They don't care. The pub scene comes first, guys. The pub scene is what makes Call of Duty its money. You have valuable feedback. You do valuable things, and you're valuable members of the community. But when your ideas suck, you gotta take a back seat just like the rest of us. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section below. If you want to remain respectful, I'd appreciate it. And I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.